Welcome back to the Forum Faculty Podcast, where today we're going to talk about sports and how they fit in with the school life and the balance between being a student and being an athlete. I'm joined in the studio today by Jeff Thompson, our basketball coach, and he's also coached baseball and soccer in the past. I'm joined by Brian Carroccio, who is our current baseball coach with 12 years of experience, as well as coaching basketball and soccer. And finally, we have Joel Sellier back in the studio for his fourth podcast appearance. That's right. Yeah. Who is our current golf coach with past experience in lacrosse, soccer, wrestling, and I found out even swimming. So thanks for joining us today, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to frame the conversation first with an understanding that PE has been important, physical education, physical development, has been important as long as our students have not just been minds, right? They've always been bodies, going back to the Greek and Roman ideal. We train our students to harden them, to make them better, faster, stronger. But with the American addition of certain sports, and as the sports have changed over the years, in the 1880s, it might have just been crew and tennis and a few others, but there's been an explosion of youth sports. What do you see when you come to be a coach, right? What do you see as the role for your student athletes in middle school and then in high school? What are your goals for your sports program?
Well, let me start by saying this. In a post-COVID world, sports has grown so much exponentially. It's unbelievable how parents now see sports as more than just an outlet. It's, way to make friends, way to, like you said, get exercise and compete. But what I've seen as a father, as a coach, as a gym owner, sports has taken off to a level I've never experienced before, because the kids were sedentary at home for 2 years, and on their phones or pads or whatever they're on, and I think sports is now taken off to a level like we've never seen.
Do you think it has a chance at replacing the community of the schools, or do they see it as parallel to the school community?
I hope they see it as parallel, but that's not always the case. No.
Okay. Yeah.
I think a lot of people didn't realize that on their own. I know in my neighborhood in Virginia, they were bringing PE teachers. They asked me to organize some games. Can you get them playing flag football or dodgeball, in public space, which was great. But one thing that I noticed that we're very fortunate to do here, having just recently talked to some teachers at other schools, is have PE almost every day. Like to have the boys 3rd through 8th grade. Oh, it's super rare. I know at my kids.
It's not an everyday occurrence at other schools?
No, it's once or twice
at the
a
Heights
week.
it is, which is beneficial.
Which is great.
Having
taught
keep
PE.
them in their desks otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, I feel. Did you teach PE? You never taught PE.
No.
But being a PE teacher for my first few years at the Heights, and we all three of us have coached during the PE period, which I just recently heard parents saying how much they love the fact that the games are at 2:30. They can come. They have practice with their 6th, 7th, or 8th grade team during the PE. I mean,
the middle school basically has a sports slot.
Yes, and that was a stroke of genius. Like, build that into the PE period, and if they can have 4 or 5 PE periods a day, per week. Yeah, I think that's huge, because I know having it once or twice at most for parochial schools is not enough. But I think that's a main selling point for it. I wish we did that as well for 9th through 12th grade. But we can talk about that a little bit later. Like, I think intramural sports are the way to go.
Yeah, there's a high school problem that I think I want to see solved. But first I wanted to ask about, because you'd both brought up something already that intrigues me, is that I've seen an explosion. School sports have been a staple for a long time. My parents' generation, even my grandma was the center on her basketball team in Little Rock, Arkansas, almost 100 years ago. But club sports have seen a particular explosion. What's the balance there? How should we encourage our athletes to balance? Brian, why don't you speak to that? I know club baseball is huge, travel baseball, right? Yeah. How do you as a coach navigate playing for your team and playing to up your athletic skill?
I guess for me at the varsity level specifically, I don't see the guys playing on outside teams not during the season as a problem. I actually am okay with it. So if a guy plays on a travel team in the summer or the fall, great. I have a hard sort of, I guess it's not a rule, but I basically tell them that if they want to go to play on an outside team during the spring, well, then they're free to go do that. But I'm not really interested in that arrangement. That's sort of how I phrase it. Now, I guess getting back to your question of like balance, that's a tricky one because I can see it from the perspective of a parent. I have a son who's not bad at baseball. And one of the things that's happened with like travel baseball is travel baseball has kind of killed recreational baseball. Okay, because it used to be that you could play rec in your local community and it was pretty good baseball. And my son is kind of at the point where it's like rec is at times maybe not enough for him. It doesn't offer enough. But like my wife and I have talked about this. We don't want to be traveling to like Georgia and stuff either to play baseball.
I have a tournament in South Carolina this weekend,
which isn't a uncommon phrase.
Oh no, I hear it. Yeah, and I'm like, wow, you were in South Carolina all weekend.
Yeah, and again, I'm a baseball guy, but that sort of is too much, at least for us and our family. So, yeah, the frustration for me, given kind of my son in particular, who's a decent baseball player, he's not going to be a major leaguer or anything, but is that there sort of isn't something for him because there's these two extremes that the travel world has created.
So why can the travel world not fill in the middle as well? I'm trying to understand, because I could see that maybe a Bethesda team might have their A team, but can't they get like a B and a C and a D, and ultimately the C and the D would play at something more like a rec level?
I read something that the two biggest gross industries are the travel industry, and then second is the sports industry.
Wow,
like
blowing up,
and then like the movies and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think to Brian's point, sports is just getting so big that it can be a money gouge for these travel teams. So they will make a B and C and D team just to make more money at that level.
I see.
And not,
Yeah. Also, the travel organizations sort of try to outdo one another. So if this travel organization has this guy who played in the major leagues, right, and that travel organization had this guy who only played in the minor leagues, right, there's a way. So they're constantly trying to outdo each other. And the parents, I'm amazed by how much the parents sort of go for the BS.
Yeah.
Like, I just coming across them over time.
You mean like the marketing?
They'll be like, my son's travel coach, had 3 cups of coffee with the Yankees in, the 1980s, and it's like, that's really great, But they sort of buy it.
And they don't see it as the smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, they don't see it as kind of, and it's like, okay, I mean, look, that's cool, but I just, the travel organizations are very competitive with each other. Now, I want to be clear. I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I mean, I would look into it for my son, depending on what it offers. But there is like an industry out there that didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
And what it's doing to the kind of the bigger picture, the overall level, I mean, I'm not sure is good.
Yeah. Well, and what do you think it's doing to our school sports? Like, can you guys speak to the individual
I think it's
sports
completely dividing it. I think kids have to choose, and it's sad because the school used to be the number one priority. That's where their best friends are. That's where the parents' friends and congregate. And I think once that deviates, it creates a huge problem because there's not as much camaraderie or cohesiveness at the school level. And, building a school foundation of a school, that were school spirit back in the day, and all the rallies and all rallying around the team, that's kind of lost.
Well, I think it's also ruining sports kind of on a community level, as you mentioned before, and Tom, you and I have talked about this. Like, kids aren't playing outside as much. Like, we lived in our neighborhood for 3 years. Now it's suburban, it's in the woods, it's spread out, but like there are other kids. If you don't see them get off the bus, you will not see them at all.
Exist. Yeah.
In our old neighborhood, we would play in the open areas, cul-de-sac, a lot more kids getting together, but like they don't play as much. Why? Because their travel schedule is so demanding. I don't know if you guys have experienced this. Not only do I think you were spot on with it turning it into a big cash grab, like it's you want your son to play travel. First of all, there is a travel team for everyone. It's like you're lucky to start the conversation at like $1,500, $3,000. Like that might only swimming
I've
year-round.
heard
The numbers are astronomical.
That doesn't cover the cost of travel.
No,
with the
that's
hotel
just
to
that's
South
just the
Carolina.
coaching
Wow.
and the practices. But I was going to say that the number one thing, red flag for me, and my oldest is 14, but having 7 kids, like you can't really afford to have a practice schedule. Like we would get basketball practice on a Friday night at like 7:38. I'm like, you're not going to that practice. But 2 practices a week is a pretty big commitment for one kid.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big commitment for our family. So fortunately, not all of them do sports. This one does dance 1 day a week. But like, I remember when our oldest was, say, 8 or 10, and we already had, 4 or 5 kids. Do you ever get this? Other parents in the neighborhood were like, oh, just wait till it's baseball practice 3, 4, 5 nights a week and you're traveling, to Williamsburg, you're going to Frederick, you're going to Annapolis or Baltimore. Just wait. And I'm like, well, you did this to yourself.
Yeah.
Like no one made you sign up
Yeah.
for even 6th grade. I remember 6th grade when the interscholastic sports started at the Heights. There's a boy who wrestled for me, and he also played in lacrosse. He had to decide between baseball and lacrosse. He was playing on 2 club baseball teams. It was his first year at the Heights, and he had to decide between baseball and lacrosse, and he already plays for 2 club teams. It's like
a decision that was often made by freshmen in college, right? Like when I was younger, right, where you have the wide receivers were playing for Notre Dame who had started in the soccer program and just like walked on, right, switched sports. But a 6th grader putting that pressure on a 6th grader.
You got to decide. This will determine your future.
Become an expert in one. It feels like way too young to even start thinking about which athletic skills you should be, honing. Just be a general
I think that
athlete.
really begins as a freshman in high school. I think every kid should be able to play basketball, baseball, soccer, tennis, swimming, whatever. And then as they realize what their passion is or what they're starting to get pretty good at, then they hone in on that one tunnel and go there. And, a kid should be a kid in lower school, middle school, and then in high school, then they really should start to figure out which track they want to go on,
But it can be tough because I think even here, right, and we're athletically a competitive school, but, guys don't come here to play sports.
Right.
I've had conversations with parents where I'll say, oh, in 9th grader, is he going to try out for any winter sports? And like, well, he has no experience having played them before. So, right. And this is part of what you're saying about the travel problem is I think that it introduces that expertise down to such a low level that it's like, well, yeah, he'd never make baseball. He'd never make, even though the kid might be generally athletic. The idea is, well, the kids who know the rules or know the ins and outs of the game or are starting to get the mental hardware to play the game well, they've got it on him, right? And so he's either gonna barely make the team and warm the bench. I guess what do you say? Like how can
I feel like the golf program has experienced that. Like I can only think of rugby, maybe 1 or 2 other sports, squash or like track and field if you want to get into throwing discus or shot put. But yeah, there are not many sports where you can just I'm going to pick that up in high school. And this year has actually been the first year for me. Like the golf numbers have been down for a number of reasons. They play tennis, they play lacrosse, they play baseball, they play rugby.
Spring is an explosion
very
of sports
competitive.
options. Yeah.
But I'm like trying to encourage more boys. I hear them talking about it in the hallways. I play golf with my dad. I'm like, just come out for the team. But I have to talk them into it or encourage them. I think precisely for the reasons you mentioned. It's like, well, yeah, I haven't specialized in golf since 6th grade, so why would I bother? Which I think is a mistake. They should come do it because it's fun, not because we're going to win the championship in our conference, which is
Can I pivot for a second?
Sure, yeah.
I think a large part of the problem too, that old saying, know thyself.
Yeah.
Parents are a big problem because the vicariousness through their children is really alarming that I've seen for so many years.
living vicariously.
I want to go deeper on that. Do you mean that, like, for example, you played basketball, so you want your kids to play basketball? Is it that level of vicarious, like repeating your childhood, or is it?
I played
do everything.
I knew at a level in middle school I was good enough to play high school basketball. My goals were to play high school and get a full scholarship to college, and I attained that. Right?
Yeah,
and I played 4 years, Division II, top 10 team up in New Hampshire. It was great. We had a great time.
right.
Problem is today, the parents are so unrealistic with their children that they will do anything in order for their kids to try to get ahead so they can be the next level person. And a lot of times the kid isn't that good.
Right.
And they feed all this money into a program or a travel team and this and that just so their kid can, because the parent doesn't really get it.
Yeah.
But they're going to go all in. And that's a big part of the problem with sports today is honestly the parents.
It's interesting because I think, considering myself mostly an outsider, but I'm like, look, if there's another LeBron, we're going to find him. Right? Like the American sports system is so good at finding the next LeBron that wherever he is and whatever money is not yet being thrown at him, they'll find it. So you almost want to like tell parents that, right? Like if he's as amazing as you think he is, trust me, everyone will notice.
You agree?
So
yeah, I mean, if it's a LeBron, people will notice. Yes, I agree with that.
And we have had those. Were both of you here when Freddie Adu was here?
Yep.
I think. Were you coaching soccer at the time?
Well, I mean,
Brian made Freddie do.
Yeah, I did coach Freddie too.
And was his level of play was always a clear quantum leap above any of the other players on the field.
He was a sixth grader here, and it was a quantum leap above every middle schooler and then even some of the high schoolers in sixth grade.
He was playing JV. My brother was captain of the JV soccer team, and their record was like 13-0-1, and he was in sixth grade. And it's like, well, what about that one time? It's like, that was the day he was absent. There was a sixth grade field trip that day. But he was playing at higher. I remember pulling up to the campus and kids are because he was clowning other high school soccer players. But those special guys come along. The sad part is now sometimes the Heights is doing way better. I love the fact that we're keeping more of those eighth graders that are like, I'm head and shoulders, but I got to go off to greener pastures. And it's like, you can play at a very high level. Yeah. It's not always, an athletic decision that, I can do better athletically. I should go elsewhere.
Well, and it sounds like, do you think the travel teams solve a little bit of that problem? Because I would say
I wish they did.
The travel team exists solely to develop the athletic talent. So it makes sense that a parent's going to put them on the travel team. It kind of fits the right level for Johnny's talents to be honed.
Freddie Adu or the next LeBron should play at the top level of talent.
Right.
That and again, I'm not against the travel per se. I think that it's a byproduct of some of the things we're talking about, and it creates sort of a bit of an awkward kind of situation. But I mean, there are guys, and there's some of my top baseball guys I'm talking with this week, and I said, hey, you guys should go this summer and play with this team and that team,
right?
Because that's how you're going to get better,
right?
I agree. Like the Freddie Adus and who the other guy, the next LeBron, whoever that is, they should be playing on these top teams.
Well, but I think then that clarifies for us that the goal of a school sports program is it's maybe not just not developing athletic potential. It's other things entirely. It's the love of play, the love of teamwork, right?
I've played with a couple pros, and I know a bunch of pro athletes, and the common denominator with them all is one word: it's discipline. And it's interesting because they work hard, they practice their butts off, they have a routine that they go through, and ultimately they have a goal. Yeah. And that's the beauty of sports is the discipline, the end goal.
Yeah, and the scoreboard doesn't lie.
And like my goal, was to get a scholarship to college, and I did that. And I knew I couldn't do anything after that, and that's fine.
Right.
But I think parents, like I said, going back to the parents, have these absurd, trajectory dreams for their child.
Right.
That's not always
expectations.
Yeah.
But if the school gets out in front of that and says, "Hey, here's what we want your boys or your sons and daughters to get,"
sports and academics can coincide and be harmonious. So, congruently, which is great. That's why I love it.
Yeah.
Is the discipline? Hey, but you're a student athlete. Not an athlete student. You have to put one before the other. Right. In order to play. So I think that's a great thing for.
Yeah, and I frankly think we do that well here. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm.
I think there's room for improvement, but I think you're right.
I think we do that pretty well here.
Yeah, they have their place. Now, I was just going to say along those lines is like expectation management, both from the parents and the students. Like, I find it funny, especially with the students now, being in the our conference, very competitive, maybe arguably the most or one of the most
In the
top
area?
conference
in the country.
Oh, in the country,
especially
wow.
for Catholic conferences.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the best in the country.
And it's funny because I don't think the boys are aware. So first of all, we're smaller class size. I mean, 600 in our entire school, right around 3rd through
Includes
12th.
a lot of third graders.
All boys. It's a lot of 3rd through 8th, but so that leaves only
a small pool.
a small pool of high school boys. But it's funny in terms of expectation management, hearing them talk in class and talking to them, and this I'm sure applies to a lot of schools, but it's like, I can't tell if they wish they were part of a sports factory or not. It's like the Heights, that's not what we're here to do. We're not cranking out champions, going to get you, come to the Heights and play on this team, and we're guaranteeing you a college scholarship. It's funny because they kind of want to be that. Like you talk about the discipline, like, you're going to have to work in the office. Yeah. You're going to have to hit the weight room. There's it's wide open.
St. Paul in his letters talks about athletes
being an athlete for Christ,
running the race.
And just, finishing the race and
beating his body too into submission.
Yeah. I mean, the discipline is a huge part,
Yeah.
I just recently heard, I'm doing catechism in a year, and I didn't realize that the catechism specifically talks about the proper place for the body and not to worship. One of my favorite quotes about sports from an 8th grade parent when I first started, this was like 04, 05. I think he played golf and lacrosse and soccer as well, maybe. But we were, having a tough season, whatever, tough game, and we're playing another school in this area, probably not a Catholic school. And she said, well, are we really surprised? I mean, you see the boys that go there, the families, where they put their priorities. I mean, that school worships at the altar of sports.
Yeah.
And, being a Catholic school, that's not our...
It's not our altar.
It's not our altar. But also, I look around at some of the other Catholic schools sometimes, and I'm like, they seem like they are a sports factory. Like that.
Some of them get their
that
reputations
basketball
for
team
that, for
could
sure.
give a Division II, Division III, low Division I
they would
team a run for their money, if not beat them. Like, they seem like they're a sports factory that also happens to be a Catholic school. But so and trying to communicate that to the boys, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay if we lose to that team or have a losing record. Like, there's still something admirable about the fight, the season, the team, the camaraderie, getting out there and competing against this unbelievable competition. Even if you're outmatched, I mean, there's still a lot of merit to that.
Yeah, Brian, what do you say? As a baseball coach in a really difficult league, how do you kind of balance that, keep morale up?
Well, it's tough because you've got the school is joined a league that's very difficult. And so that naturally cascades down to the parents and the players where they think of it that's the level that we should be at. If this is the league that we're in, well, then that's the level that we should be at.
Yeah, join the league, so
and
aspire to play at that level.
Then if we're not at that level, well, this needs to change, or that needs to change, or the coach needs to change, or like all these other things, or we need to do this, that, and the other. And people bring to me this, that, and the other all the time. I'm like, yeah, that'd be really nice, that would be great.
Practice 8 days a week, 2 days.
I'm not against it. But yeah, you do have to sort of reframe things, and you have to be realistic. And I'll admit that's a difficult balance. I do think, though, that at least with baseball, I have players and parents who sort of get it. In other words, they get, what the Heights is about. They get, where the Heights is competing, and they kind of get, I think they are somewhat realistic.
Okay.
There are some who are not.
Yeah.
There are some who just 5-year plan to win the league. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm open to that, but
Can I share a quick story that I share with the boys? Another golf coach that we play against, his father also coached the team before him, so it's a father-son combo, and the father still comes to a lot of the matches. Love the guy, great coach, great guy. He grew up in the DC area, and one of the most prominent basketball coaches, not only in this area, but like in history of high school sports, like winning most college and high school, recruited him as like an AAU basketball referee, and this was like in the 50s or the 60s, because I love this story because it kind of shines a light on some of these teams, some of these schools we play against. And this he's now a grandfather, was playing point guard for this basketball team, and the very famous, before he was a famous coach, but he was a well-established coach, came up to him kind of in the middle of the game. He's like, "Hey, son, how would you like to come play for me at such and such school?" And I said, "That's great. And you can be point guard on my basketball team, shortstop on my baseball team." He knew he played baseball. He said, "That's great." Turns out he switches school, got a head coaching position in the same conference at another school, went back to the kid, and he's like, "Actually, how would you like to come over and join me at this other school?" And sure enough, he went. 4-year varsity athlete, starting point guard for the basketball team, starting shortstop for the baseball team. It's like, that's what we're up against. And that was 60, 70 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
So it's not just a 5-year plan or throwing some money. Let's get some scholarship. I like the fact that we're all needs-based scholarship. I think that's a great way. Give the money to the families that need it.
Yeah.
I take great pride in that.
Yeah, and I think the focus on that is like, I want you, because winning is so
Totally
important, but it's obviously not the most important.
Yeah.
And what, like Brian was saying, what we do really well here is try to develop the whole child, and athletics is a part of that journey of the development of the whole child, right?
Yeah.
Because winning is not the end goal. It's like the discipline, the academics. We talk about how important sports are, and they are, how important academics are, of course, but it's also important for the child to be home, to have dinner with his mom and dad and his brothers and sisters,
Right.
And I think that's where these club sports take away from that, because the kids, even in my family, my kids do gymnastics, my son plays, baseball and basketball, and sometimes we don't have dinner for 2 weeks together, and it kills me.
Can be grating.
Yeah, and I think getting back to those roots is important, not just winning, but like being together as a family.
So I think one of the things that getting to these outside extracurricular activities that I noticed they have in common, right? And we talked about the human good of play, or like learning to use your body well as like a normal way of doing these things. But there's also the team aspect and the leadership aspect. I do want to eventually pivot to like balancing the academic and the and the sports, which is big here. But I want to touch on this first. When we play on teams, or we play for others and we play for a coach, there's that opportunity for leadership, for owning mistakes, failures, right? Like seeing that other people are relying on you in a way that they're not for your Latin grade or your English grade, right? Group projects do not belong in the classroom, people. But this is a group project where there's enough skin. Everyone has enough skin in the game that it matters a lot. What are some of the lessons you guys have seen that just can't be taught in the classroom, but definitely showed up on the field in a big way in a kid's life or in a team you've coached?
Well, this is one I'm constantly learning. I mean, just how to deal with failure.
Yep.
Okay. It's having a little bit of humility, because we are constantly reminded that, well, we're not as great as we think we are, and that's but you have to bounce back. You have to keep going. I think there's also dealing with success is tough, because as a teams high schoolers tend to be sort of extremists in the sense that if you strike out this time, well, then you're the worst baseball player that's ever lived. And if you hit the ball really well, then you're going to hit 800 and you're going to be the MVP of the league. Yeah. And they tend to sort of teeter between those two extremes, and kind of your job as a coach is to keep pushing them back to the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point. And seeing that, as it came up in the grades conversation, failure is an event.
Yeah.
We're all going to experience it.
Right.
But it's not a person.
And how do we deal with this together? How do we, how do you, you're not going to blame this guy who booted the ball. You're not going to blame this guy who struck out.
Right.
We're going to rally somehow collectively and get better. So
that sense of common good is really powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Like it may have been his error that caused, this cascade of effects.
Right.
But it really does affect all of us. Like, welcome to the common good. Like, when we crash the car, everybody in the car gets hurt, not just the person who crashes it. Right?
Yeah, you sort of stole my next point there. Yeah, the effect on all of us.
Mm-hmm.
If if you miss a game or something or whatever and you're not there, that has an effect on a lot of people. And I think that, in the classroom, like, it's your grade. You get an A and that guy gets an F. And
you're absent, you were sick, whatever.
I remember I had a dad, Tom,
I had a dad too.
20 years ago. No, I had a father of a student, Brian.
Okay, all right.
About 20 years ago, and it was interesting.
We all did,
yeah.
He was a sophomore, and the father came up to me, and he wanted to play JV basketball. And he was mediocre. He was middle of the pack. He maybe have made the team, maybe not. Had the father not come up to me and says, "Hey, can you do me a huge favor? Just put him on the team. He doesn't have to play," because he was a really good tennis player. And he said he needs to be on a team sport because tennis is an individual sport.
Yeah.
He says because at home he's not picking up his stuff or hanging out with his brother because he's so isolated into his own world because he just plays tennis,
Right.
And I said, well, that's an impetus for me to be like, yeah, of course he could be on the and somehow, throughout the year, the coach and the dad came up to me and he goes, "Thank you so much," because he learned how to be a teammate. He learned how to be a good brother. And that was an important lesson for me.
Yeah.
To realize, that's an individual sport, I get it, versus a team sport like Coach was just talking about, of how to win together, how to lose together, I thought that was a pretty cool thing.
Well, and it's really helpful for coaches because they can often help a kid see this skill, this discipline that you have in this aspect of life is a transferable skill. Yeah. You actually can push that over into the way you treat your little brother, or you can push that over into the grit that you bring to your math homework.
Yeah.
But you can also not. Yeah. You can just love your little thing and only do what's fun for you when it's fun for you, or only push when it's something you're going to like the goal for.
Exactly. Plato is attributed to this comment, but I don't know if that's true or not. But I love this comment. It said, "You could tell more about a person in an hour of play than a year in conversation."
Huh.
Which says a lot about sports, right?
Yeah.
How a person, like Brian was saying, how you win, how you lose, how you deal with your teammates, and sports brings out the best and the worst of people.
Yeah.
And talking to someone, you can't really read a person; they can tell you BS, this and that. But that's what I think athletics to me is. It's like you can really tell a lot about a person and how they deal with wins and losses. Or
and that scoreboard doesn't lie, right?
Yeah.
But it's fun, even if it's not a Plato quote. Plato, we call him Plato, but that was actually his nickname because he was a wrestler and he had really wide shoulders. And Plato means wide in Greek. And his real name was Aristocles.
It's funny
that. My Greek
so it's always like a fun fact about Plato.
Really
well, it's a nice segue because I did want to talk about wrestling. That was
okay.
Maybe it was a difficult sport to coach, and we actually had a lot of boys, whether they got cut from the basketball team or just wanted to wrestle. We would have 7th and 8th grade joint practices, but wrestling, a lot of boys in one room. But that is one place where they did show a lot of grit. We would, practice 4 or 5 times a week, and maybe 35 minutes of mat time. It was not a lot, and I was not God's gift to the wrestling room, but we had some tenacious boys. And I must say, it was a difficult sport to coach, but it was one of, if not the most rewarding sport to coach because it's one wrestler at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, these boys, they would not want to, they'd come up with every excuse in the book, like, my stomach doesn't feel well. They had to wear singlets, we did away with that rule. You could wrestle in gym shorts and t-shirt, but like in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that was very nerve-wracking. Yeah. But when they went out there and they had practiced hard and they had trained hard, and it's sweaty times in the winter in the wrestling room, but when they listen to you, because it's only him and it's 1 or 2 coaches max, there's a lot of yelling involved sometimes. But when they listen to you and do the things that they practice, or they're coachable and they, follow through with what they've been working on, it was like one of the most rewarding times to see. But I notice it even with the older kids and even adults in, adult league, like what Jeff said or attributed to Plato, the quote about learning. Yeah. It's also like conflict resolution, resiliency, fortitude, but also like having your friends back, or where to draw the line, or retaliation, or defense.
How you respond to a foul,
100%.
All the time in adult leagues.
Yes, and sometimes we even, play pickup with the boys outside, or, have a special class reward or something, but like seeing them handle the adversity, and when something is important enough to go to bat for, or to stand up to defend your teammate, or to stick up for yourself.
That's where team sports is so good.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And even when a call doesn't go your way. Right.
Yes,
The
how you
things that
bounce
you're
back.
not in control of and the things that you
Absolutely.
are in control of.
And that's something
Really
where I
helpful
think even
distinction.
the role modeling of the coach is super duper important too. I think it was soccer and lacrosse that when I coached them, I'm like, you can sit around and complain about the foul, but I used to officiate lacrosse as well, and I'm like, you know how many times coaches or players changed my mind? Like 0 times. So you can mouth off, you can let it get you out of your mindset, you can complain, but like learning that lesson, and regardless of what the other coach is doing or what the other team is doing, or maybe the referee is blowing the call, but whatever gets you off focusing on your game.
Were you a super duper ref too? Because you just said super duper. I haven't heard that since 1980.
I dropped a super duper.
You did.
I was not.
George will replay it.
Anyway. The
super duper Jeff.
Those are really good examples, and particularly the team aspect I think is really key. But how do we? I guess the other question coming at it from the classroom level, a lot of these boys, right? We're in a league there where they've got to travel far. A lot of these boys are leaving at 1:30, 2 in the afternoon, right? Missing the whole last period and maybe some of the period before. And it's a team sport. We can't have them miss, right? Like they've got to show up for the team that they've committed to. Mm-hmm. So we get that there's a tension on both sides, but how do you balance that for each of your sports? And what are some ways maybe that we could do it differently there or do it better?
One way to get rid of the problem is to build lights.
Okay, because that allows the games to go later.
Yeah, I mean, the league could get together, at least from a baseball standpoint, and say, well, put up lights on all the.
Yeah,
I know.
Even though you guys have the advantage of lengthening days, right? Like
we do have
days
the
are still
advantage
getting
of lengthening
longer.
days,
although
but
basketball's entirely indoors anyway, so they do have lights. Yeah,
but it's not just. How do I explain this? It's not just the game. It's that you have multiple teams practicing on these fields,
which are not turf. You're saying,
which are not turf and are not necessarily available. So the games have to kind of be fit into these very narrow windows.
Yeah, it's like middle school. I asked the boys after, and I'm like, "How many innings did you have?" And they were like, 2.
Yeah, lights would solve that.
Pretty normal, because they get cut by
And like the league we're in, I know that they're beginning to codify standards for school fields.
Okay.
In other words, if you host a league game, your field should have ABC, and it should be up to it needs to be like approved, and it needs to be up to a certain specification.
Can't have that hill that we had for a long time.
Sure.
That kind of made catching fly balls hard.
And again, so I sort of, in a sense, when people bring the question up, I don't know if resent isn't the right word, but I take it a little personally as the coach, because I feel like the coach gets blamed.
Sure. Yeah.
But the schools don't do the things necessary. They like there's solutions for the schools. And if the schools got together, they could solve the problem, but they don't do it. They just blame the coach.
Well, the other
this coach, he's too serious about baseball.
This is the other solution too that we mentioned, that it was an elegant solution for middle school to give that time. Should we be giving that time? Should we just shorten the school day? Should we would you recommend?
I honestly think it's a good thing. If a boy gets out early, it's all accountability. You have to get you're getting out. You have a school.
Okay.
I mean, you know you have a game, but you also have to get your work done, and it's complete accountability. Playing high school and college basketball, we go on road trips to Long Island from New Hampshire, get back at 3 a.m. Okay, you still have class at 8 a.m. and you have to have your work done.
Yeah.
And that was
I did that too.
Yeah,
with baseball.
when you played at St.
My
Mary's.
grade stayed fine. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I sympathize with the guys too.
Not all the time, no. But in college, like Brian,
and sometimes you're going to fail in the classroom. Sure.
But you have 2 full-time jobs. You're a full-time student. You're a full-time athlete.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that what sports does for a boy and girls, if they're hungry for whatever aspiration they have in their sport. It gives them this thing to shoot for, and that drives them, and it makes them want it and go after it, and they're held accountable if they get to that level, and then they don't do what they're supposed to do, what they signed up to do, or get the scholarship to do. So I think the accountability is huge, even for a 6th grader, 7th or an 8th grader, a freshman, sophomore, all throughout high school, you have an away game, but you also have an exam or a test tomorrow.
Get it done.
You got to get it done.
Figure out a way.
And that's life, right?
Yeah, and that's helpful for the teachers, right? Because you get to we often will complain that the boys aren't mature enough without giving them opportunities to mature. And you're like, that's going to involve them falling flat on their face sometimes. But you get to point out to them when you pick them up, like, hey, you can do this better next time, right? You're not a complete failure. You're not horrible at all, at all things English. You just messed it up this time. So get the assignment in, on time next time.
Be accountable for
because I'll still be here. Yeah.
And it's a lot to ask of a 6th, 7th, 8th grade student playing in an away schedule. But I do find it interesting. This story might be, or this piece of tidbit that a parent has shared with me, maybe you've heard it before, is that a lot of parents have mentioned to me that their son did better academically during the sports season when he's got regiment. He's off in the winter, and for some reason his grades went down. But I think, having them something to work for, but also the expectations are pretty high. Like golf, for example, we don't have any home golf matches in the sense that we're playing them on campus. Like everything's away. So we're at least traveling 20-25 minutes down, up to 70.
Fundraise for a front
and
nine.
there isn't a realistic solution for that. You can't build a golf course.
You're saying a golf course is more expensive than lights?
You can't build a golf course in the middle of Potomac.
Even an 18,
but it is very
18-hole
demanding.
Championship course in the middle of Potomac.
You got it rough, man.
It's a lot. It is a lot to expect. I mean, there were, especially this year, I had a lot of seniors, and the teachers were very understanding about it, but they did not see their 7th period teacher towards the end of season. Maybe saw him once in 7 or 8 school days. It got a little crazy trying to make up dates and rescheduling things. But they're gonna fail. Use it as a teaching moment. But it's a pretty high bar to set for a 6th grader. Like, did you get the notes from history class when you left early from your soccer game? It's but to have that conversation earlier, to know that you can do it. I always think it's funny when students are like, well, oh, no, you guys did something in class yesterday when I was gone? I just assumed you canceled it.
But that is an expectation at the college level.
For sure.
Yeah. I will tell.
Well, Joel
I will tell my
wouldn't know.
students
He played intramurals.
I played.
You and I played college sports. He played.
I mean,
sorry.
if you want to call it, I did play college
I played
sports.
club lacrosse.
He's a very good athlete.
Played nothing in college.
But but I think that with some of my sharper guys, they do that.
Sure.
They'll go to the teacher. They'll send an email. They'll do that in advance.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories from Algebra 2 way back in the day. He was a good basketball player, and he just left his textbook, got home late from a game, whatever, school was locked. He found chapter 12 in the Algebra 2 textbook online and did every single problem.
Wow.
I couldn't have been more impressed. It happened one time.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, there were boys who aren't playing basketball and weren't as good
still
students who still didn't
done.
get it done. But that was a one-off.
Well, and it's the extremes. You remind me of the extremes in high school are often that the boys still do, or different students at different times do still have too much time on their hands. And so sometimes that additional sport in the season is enough where what do pastors will often say, give the next volunteer job to the already busiest volunteer, because they obviously know what they're doing, so they can handle it, right? So, and it's the idea that maybe sometimes what he needs is more to do, right? And more that's engaging, more that he can get traction with. But that was a helpful lesson for me as a middle school teacher, and probably the nerdiest person in this room, as we've discovered, but least athletic, we'll say it that way. When I would want to hold a kid for, as a punishment out, bench him, let's, maybe not pull him off the team, but I'd be really mad as a young teacher that he wasn't taking me as seriously as I thought I should be taken, which is very seriously.
Very serious.
You're going to get really mad as a teacher.
But Andy was great at pointing out, what are you doing? You're making the kid not show up for his team, right? Resent you and whatever it is you're trying to teach him, and then not giving him an outlet, right? So you're it's a lose all the way around, to constantly be pulling these kids from a commitment that they already made to their teammates, to their coach, to themselves.
And to their parents, because when I coached basketball, especially middle school, we had 35-minute practices. My goal my objective in that practice was to make sure every kid left the gym sweating and smiling, right?
Nice.
The fact that, coaches can sit there and talk for 20 minutes, no kid in high school or middle school wants to hear a coach talk for 20 about drills or
so the coaches
fundamentals.
can take themselves too seriously too.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and it's ruined a lot of sports that the coach can play a major role in you know, not wanting the kid to play the sport anymore, be on a team because, you know, talk about themselves or this fundamental for 20, 30 minutes. A kid should always leave practice sweating. That's important.
Yeah.
You know, releasing those endorphins, getting energy out and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and having learned that he can give something in practice too.
Yeah.
Like there was something to be given here.
By you holding them back and punishing them, you are part of the problem.
I know. Yeah. The solution is don't hire Mr. Paxton. But yeah, I wanted to say, do you guys have any closing thoughts for there is still, and maybe there's always going to be the tension and we just need to solve it prudently, right, in our personal communities, but I wanted to give you guys a closing thought. Like is it a mindset shift that we need? Is there something we can change?
I have one thought. I don't often endorse people's senior thesis, Jackson Scholar Defense, but one I went to last year, which was outstanding, was Lawson Wheel Dryer. And he talks about over specializing in sports, hyper specialization.
Too early.
And the club program and the kind of death of intramurals and sports for fun in the community. And he used John Stockton as an example, and I think you've read his book, but it was an awesome example. Was he Canadian?
No, he's from Spokane, Washington.
So, but he grew up playing
for the Utah Jazz. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He grew up playing all the sports, and he played soccer, and he played basketball, baseball, and he played year-round all the sports. And it wasn't until basketball season started that he would play basketball full-time, but he really attributes a lot of his success to playing all these other sports at a high level for a long time. And part of the solution, if I remember correctly, is playing with people you enjoy, you know, neighborhood, the kids. We've started intramural soccer after school, one of the most popular basketball games that Coach Kilmer runs, the intramurals, the boys look forward to. They're on Saturdays, they're on weeknights. They get so amped for them, and they're just coached by dads or other students, and they get so much enjoyment out of them. It's not a super high level, but it's competitive, and they have a championship. How that is part of the solution versus, you know, taking the fun out of it, playing at super high level, paying lots of money, traveling, hurting the family. So to get more, anything that families can do, more time at home, around the table, less practice time, more more engaging in the community, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the clubs do, like, schools are particularly situated to solve that exact problem, right? Here's 3 seasons. You can play 3 sports.
Perfect.
And then also we'll do a club, right? If you're, it's often easy to complain about the problem, but it's greater to point to the people who are already solving it, right? Larry Kilmer, Dan Sush, the guys starting the clubs that are like, if you really love soccer, just come play it with us.
Totally.
Right? Like, here's when we're playing it, right? That's a great thought, Joel. Thanks. Jeff, did you have any?
No, I just think that, you know, sports is so intertwined with American society.
Definitely.
You know, I mean, it's you know,
we watch it, we breathe it.
America's pastime,
yeah.
baseball, and it's so big on so many levels. But just keeping the right mentality of, hey, how is this going to make you a better person, a better teammate, a better son, a better brother,
yeah.
a better friend, a better husband, ultimately. And I think, you know, there's so many parallels and metaphors of sports that you could use in everyday life. You know, not just the discipline and the accountability, the punctuality.
Yeah.
You know, all those things are so wonderful. And I think just kind of, you know, rearing these guys and the next level of these kids through sports and academics, obviously, student athlete, not athlete student.
Right.
Will make them better people because it's just a great thing. I love it. I mean, my whole
yeah.
life has revolved around sports, and
to that point, I really enjoyed the fact that we now hold up. Like, as a kid, I obviously noticed all the athletes that we worshipped, right? Like, yeah. there's going to be the natural hero worship of
sure.
a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan, right? But it's been cool as I've gotten older to see that also happens for coaches. And like Wooten writes a book and everybody reads it, and it's these leadership lessons, and, you know, Belichick is going on podcasts and talking about not just football, but about leadership and talent recognition and running a team. And I think it's really good for us to see that the heroes are not just the excellent
stars.
Athletes, right?
You know, I was just this past weekend. I had dinner with a former Philadelphia Eagles coach whose name was Dick Vermeil.
Mm-hmm.
Vermeil won a Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams.
Nice.
With Kurt Warner, and they called, what was it, Coach? The greatest
show on turf.
The greatest show on turf. That was the name of his team. And I said to him, I said, "What are you doing now?" He goes, "Well, you know, he's retired, and he had worked for many years as an NFL head coach." And he said, "When I started, it was just me and my assistant in the 70s. They had 2 coaches." He goes, "Nowadays, they got 30.
Wow, yeah.
And he goes, I have a farm in Napa Valley. He goes, "I grow grapes, and I hop on my tractor, and that's all I want to do." And I was thinking to myself, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Right? You got this legend. He's 88, Dick Vermeil.
Wow.
And he just goes and hops on the tractor and tills his soil. But he goes, but the memories I have made from all the guys over the years, my teammates, my former players, the wins, the losses, he goes, the memories were so indelible for this guy. And it was just really cool to listen to this old man speak about his time as a coach. And it was awesome. He wouldn't change it for anything. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, you almost want him to write a book before he dies. Yeah. Like, share some of that wisdom with us. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess that's a good segue for me because as a coach, you know, it can be a grind, and you kind of begin to think, you know, sometimes, you know, you're getting your teeth kicked in, and you know, do I, you know, like, what am I doing here? Right? But you know, I'll keep sort of some of the details of it private. But we do exit meetings with the players. And, you know, I was sort of feeling a little down in the dumps last week, and I had about an hour-long exit meeting with one of the guys last week, and he told me about how much fun he had, and, like, he said this season was the best season I've ever had, you know, thank you so much.
Awesome. Wow.
And it's kind of like, you know, then you sort of are reminded, like, this is kind of why we're doing this. And, there's something about a team, and, you know, Jeff captured a little bit, but I can't really explain it. But that is sort of, you know, all this stuff that we talk about, and, you know, the league and missing class. But it's like, you know, I would never give that up. Right. You know, and I had 10 years between stints as the coach. Yeah. But there's something about that as you know, being part of a team that I just can't really explain.
Yeah, well, and as they say, like, there are no solutions, only trade-offs.
Right.
But we've got to look with a clear eye at what our trade-offs are, and when you see like, well, these are the benefits our students get from it, you're like, well, why not? Like, that's a no-brainer. So
I will say one last thing on that. My favorite moments in college playing basketball were not the games, not the practice. It was the bus rides with my teammates.
Yeah.
You know, and once that was gone, like, you look back, like, man, those were unbelievable conversations, laughs, stories, friendship. And that's kind of what he's alluding to, is like those memories that you create through sports. You can't put a price on that.
Yeah. I mean, we had like poker nights in Florida this year. I took all the kids' money. No, just kidding. But, you know, we played cards at night, you know, that kind of stuff is just, and that, you know, the kids talk about that, and, you know.
And they remember it.
Yeah, they remember it, you know.
Yeah. And not just from the constant wins, right? But a lot of the closeness comes from the struggles through the losses.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today, guys.
Sure.
I think we solved sports at the high school level.
Figured it out.
Yep. I think you guys just need to apply these lessons now back at your local community and your local school. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.